Today's episode is going to be on the Treaty of Versailles. This treaty is a little bit interesting, as most people thought it was just an end to the war, but it's going to be a little bit different than what a lot of people are thinking. With this war, it was really not what people thought. People thought it was Germany being as the aggressor, and that was really not the case. This was where the United Kingdom, or at the time the British Empire, being the aggressor. So it ended up being where Germany and Russia ended up being the victims of the war. So what ended up happening was, because of what happened with the treaty, they end up becoming the victims of the whole treaty because of what ended up happening. Germany ended up having the occupation covered by France, and it limited their options, and Russia ended up having all of their options for trade in the Middle East eliminated by this whole thing. The occupation by France basically was completely immoral, because no country should have their country occupied at all. Any self-respecting person should realize that their country should not be occupied by another nation for any legitimate reason. There is really no legitimate reason to have your country occupied, because if you have any belief in sovereignty, you should be able to run your own country. I don't care if you think that the country's done something wrong. Your country should be able to run itself. This basically, what it ended up happening because of this is, despite what they might state, is all they had for choices, because they wanted to limit the rise of this economically, because they also had sanctions put on them, is you only had the choice in the country of progressivism, socialism, and communism. This ended up, all it did was led to the rise of the National Socialist leader Adolf Hitler, who is currently jailed as being a military member being in the World War I army. And he became the leader of this Socialist Party. He was not a right-wing leader, as most people want to believe. He was a socialist. If you look at all of his plans, they are all socialist. The purpose of the treaty also ended up basically carving up the Middle East, which basically eliminated any chance of Russia developing a relationship with the area. This was done deliberately, as they feared Russia was going to become this big superpower. This was, again, a repeat of what we talked about in the last episode, of the United Kingdom having this fear of someone coming and taking over their big power of the region. This was the reason why they started the war to begin with. So they wanted to ensure that they didn't rise. Well, by doing this, they created a weakness in Russia, so that ended up becoming what became the Bolshevik Revolution, and they ended up falling, and it created the Soviet Union. We know what happened with that, and that led to the rise of Stalin, later on with it after Lenin. The treaty, and then we can also cover with what happened in the Middle East. The Treaty of Versailles was really not was what ended up establishing Israel. It was not World War II. Many people think it was World War II, but it was not. World War II was just where a lot more had moved down into Israel. But the Treaty of Versailles was what established it. The reason why they established it down there was because since the late 1800s, the British Empire did not like these Eastern European immigrants in their country. They had tried to blame them for a lot of different homicides in the Whitechapel area. If you look at the Whitechapel homicide cases, you will see this. They tried anytime there was one that would come up where a Eastern European immigrant would have any type of mental health issues, they try to pin a murder on them. This was always the case. They did not like Eastern European Jews, and they wanted to get rid of them. And that this was the perfect opportunity, and they didn't care about the Palestinian state at the time. So they felt, just push the Palestinians off the land and steal the land from them and create Israel. Now, this does not in any way mean that we can basically fix the problem now, but this is what they did back then. And basically, because of this treaty, what we end up having is this basically created future implications. We have the rise of socialism and communism because of this, because they didn't look at the possibilities of what happened by the occupation of Germany and by trying to keep the Russian Tsar system down, which led to obviously what socialism and communism caused, which is it ended up causing all the suffering in areas of Europe that adopted these systems, areas in Asia, areas in Africa, and there were also areas in the Americas and the Caribbean. It also led to the rise of Hitler, Stalin, and Mao directly from this treaty, which could not be disputed. It also led to the carving out of the new Middle East that we see currently today. This ended up stealing land from a bunch of different cultures that really already had countries that had been there for centuries. When you do that, people don't exactly take kindly to that. They don't like their land being stolen. And when you steal someone's land, they're going to be mad. And this is what creates conflict. And when you do that, that's going to raise the plausibility of terrorism in the next few generations. Now, anytime you're going to do this with it, and then you add intervention on top of that, it's going to increase it more so. So when you have this, it's going to create more and more problems. On top of this, when we this is where we sit with the Treaty of Versailles. That's why it created all of these incidents. Next to this is why when we discuss World War II, we're going to see that World War II, as well with World War I, it was really not even necessary. World War I was developed over greed over land, but World War II was essentially the cause created from World War I. This was not exactly something that we even needed in the first place. We could have stopped the whole thing by not participating, or actually by telling the United Kingdom that you're actually committing atrocities in this by trying to do such a thing. If the United States would have actually sided with the opposition, we could have actually stopped it, and in negotiations, and stopped them from doing such a thing. And I hope you enjoyed this, even though you might have considered this quite shocking that of what was actually discussed in this one. And I hope you would have enjoyed our future discussions on these topics. Thank you. Subscribe, like it, and see you next time. Bye.